Hey everybody, Pastor Kerry here, back at our church and thinking about, like a lot of people, the tragedy out in California with the helicopter crash. And I'm thinking about it from a number of perspectives. First, I'm a commercial helicopter pilot myself, and so thinking about it from the pilot perspective, but also I'm a pastor, so from the human perspective, what are some things that we should be thinking about in light of this? And the FAA has put together a decision-making matrix to help pilots assess risk, because for me, looking at the flight path and also listening to the FAA transcripts of the dialogue between the pilot and ATC, this looks like a classic, what we would call a CFIT accident, CFIT, controlled flight into terrain. I'd be surprised if something comes out later that says that the helicopter had something mechanically wrong to it. It looks like a classic setup for a CFIT accident. And it is one of the top 3 killers in aviation, they're finding, that people are taking perfectly good airplanes and ramming them into the earth. And there are reasons that pilots do this, and so much of that is mental and decision-making that's taking place. I want to talk to you about those things because they have broad application for us, even if you're not a pilot. The FAA says that there are 3 things that blind us to unmanageable risk. The first one is utility. You're asking the aircraft to do more than it's capable of doing. And I don't know if this scenario, if that was really true. I mean, they had a few people in the Sikorsky helicopter, but it's a very capable helicopter. The other is ability. We're asking ourselves to do more than we are capable of doing. And evidently this might have been the case. The pilot is asking himself to do more than he was capable of doing given the conditions. Often when we have a lot of experience in something, we can be a little invulnerable. We don't think that this can happen to us. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the last one is fun. We want to pursue pleasure, and the FAA even names this. They call it fun. We're pursuing pleasure, and in the pursuit of pleasure, we're asking the aircraft or ourselves to do more than we or the aircraft are capable of performing. And this has broad application for all of us, because sometimes the wrongful pursuit of pleasure causes more pain than anything else. And I think the wrongful pursuit of pleasure is the source of a lot of meaninglessness, because when you get to the top of Pleasure Mountain, if pleasure is your God, you're realizing that it's taking more from you than it's giving, and it can't fill that eternal hole in our soul. Then the FAA talks about 5 attitudes that are fatal and will lead us into taking more risk than we should be taking. And I think 3 of the 5 are really applicable here today. One of them is, or the first one I want to talk about, is anti-authority. When you listen to the radio transcripts, you see the pilot declaring different weather conditions that he might have been shading the truth there. And he declared himself in VFR conditions when I think he was in IFR conditions looking at the weather reports. And that's kind of a way that pilots will just skirt around the FAA regulations. And it's an anti-authority attitude. And when we adopt an anti-authority attitude that says nobody's going to tell me what to do, that's a sure recipe for never reaching your potential, because authorities, our parents and teachers and even our bosses, are there, even though they're imperfect, they're there to help us, that protect us and provide for us so that we can continue to grow in ourselves. But I know a lot of people, when they're young, no one's going to tell me what to do, and nobody wants to work with them, frankly, and so they never achieve their potential. So that's one fatal attitude. Another one is a sense of macho-ness, that I can do this. And I think it led him into thinking that he could do something beyond his ability. And then the third one is invulnerability. This can't happen to me. We're going to be fine. I've done this many times before. And the fact is, none of us are invulnerable. All of us have vulnerabilities, and all of us have frailties. And all of us will perish from the earth at some point. That's why it's so important to make peace with your Creator and enter into that relationship that you were designed for. Only through the cross of Christ. Jesus is the only mediator between God and man. So what makes him unique? Well, the cross is unique in that love and justice and forgiveness and our evil all met in one place so that we could receive God's grace instead of his justice. And then the empty tomb, the resurrection of Christ, shows that God is powerful to save. And so I encourage you, if you're a pilot, to review the risk management skills and decision-making skills. And then if you're just any person, just know that God cares about you, and he sent his son to die on the cross so that you could enter into the relationship that you were designed for. All right, just some thoughts for today. Godspeed.